Droplets of dew fall. Excitement stirs up as the music twinkles on and on. A new region of adventure and wonder. A glance up into the horizon. What's that silhouette whizzing by? You're riding your bike in this new land of grass and mountains. And the Pokemon flies overhead. I wonder what type it is. You begin to chase after it, and the screen fades to white. And what's this? A battle? What are these Pokemon? This looks intense. These must be the starters. A double battle? What new attacks are these? These are the first thoughts that entered my head 10 years ago, when I first played Pokemon Ruby version. It doesn't feel like 10 years at all, and it still hasn't worn off on me yet, with its ability to entertain me for hours on end. It was quantum leaps ahead in graphics and sound compared to its Game Boy Color predecessors, and to me it felt like an entirely new world of Pokemon. I admit I was somewhat afraid at first of what would be in store, but it grew on me, and has easily become one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time. In fact, it is home to my favorite Pokemon of all time, Absol. Last time I played through this game was for my first video quest, the Gotta Catch 'Em All Quest Challenge. To celebrate the 10th anniversary of the game coming out in America, March 19th, 2013, I, Trainer Matt, also known as Absol, will start anew and experience everything all over again, and I will take you on the ride with me in video form. I will be only using my favorite Pokemon Absol in battle, and I will experience most of the game out of town on a trip. Right now, I'm recording up to the trade for the Absol egg at home, and then I will be filming bits and pieces of the rest of the adventure. Let's adventure into the Hoenn region together, and I will share my various thoughts on everything about this great game, and what I love about it, the mysterious things that surrounded it, all the random thoughts that entered my head the first time I played it. And we begin with a new game. And look here, it's the new Pokemon Professor. Professor Birch, wearing cargo shorts. I always wear cargo shorts, they're comfortable and easy to wear. And I think it was really interesting that he chose Azul as the first Pokemon to show in the game, because it's not very obvious to obtain a ball at all, requiring breeding with incense. Well, I start out by, of course, saying that I'm a boy because I'm a boy, and I named myself 10 years to commemorate this anniversary. Now, when I first played this game, I honestly had no clue what I had in store for myself because I didn't use the internet at the time. Nor was I aware that the game had already been out in Japan for a while, so I didn't have any information on it whatsoever. I also did not choose to buy the strategy guide when I first got the game, so it was overall an untouched Pokemon experience. Everything was completely new to me. In fact, it took me months to discover some Pokemon even existed at all, like Chimecho and Wailord. Well, anyway, I think it's really an interesting opening for a Pokemon game. The fact that you exit from a moving van from what I believe is the Johto region, and I think is confirmed by a lady in Petalburg City, is very fitting for the start of the game because everything was so new at the time for me. My question is, though, why do you have to ride in the moving van? Like, you're a person. In this run, setting the clock will be pointless because my internal battery is dry, so basically every Eevee I ever get will evolve based on how I set the clock at the beginning. The whole sequence with Professor Birch running from the Poochyena at the beginning was a very refreshing starter picking experience, completely different from the typical trip to the lab to select a Pokemon like the previous games. I have heard that the Poochyena encountered can be a shiny Pokemon, so it must be really lame to encounter that though. I'm choosing Torchic for now, but I'm going to trade it away for the Absol egg as soon as I can, almost immediately. And it's kind of pretty awesome. For a Torchic, I guess. Let's skip ahead some. Alright, so I skipped ahead to the first trainer battle versus May. But I really don't consider May or Brendan as rivals. They are more of a trainer that you just happen to encounter along the way a lot. They never really have an extremely competitive spirit, Instead, they just see if you're strong enough to deserve helpful items throughout the game. Who I believe is the true rival will later be revealed. I usually actually like to try and level my starter to level 10 before this battle, just to make it a lot easier on myself, but this time I'm taking it on at a low level so I can get the Pokeballs as soon as possible. And it's just a simple tackle and scratch fest, so it goes pretty quickly. Alright, so I just obtained the Pokeballs. And now I'm going to get the running shoes, probably the most liberating item in the Pokemon series. Allowing for the game to go by so much faster at the press of the button, allowing me not to rely so much on the bicycle for fast travel, especially early on before the bicycle is even an option. And now that I'm getting the running shoes, I'm going to immediately run into the grass where I have a higher chance of encountering Pokemon thanks to having the running shoes. And I'm going to try and capture a Zigzagoon, because it will be a good placeholder Pokemon and it will actually be a valuable party member. Zigzagoon is actually a great first Pokemon for anyone because of its ability to learn so many TMs and HMs, even Surf, and its ability pickup is super handy, allowing for free items throughout the game. Pokemon abilities are one of my favorite additions to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. But I do feel that some abilities do hinder Pokemon too much, like Slack Off and Slacking, and, of course, later on, Regigigas, which could be a good legendary if it weren't for a slow start. But we have our Zigzagoon, so now we can trade. Alright, here goes the trade. Farewell, Torchic, and hello, Egg. Trading an egg always seems silly, but is so handy for creating creative runs with special starter Pokemon. And yes, what you saw over there a second ago was my Butterfree from the Butterfree solo run, and it's still on Emerald version right now after I took on the Elite Four in September with it. And anyway, now that this trade is complete, I'm going to go get some sleep, and tomorrow I'm going to take you on a real journey. I'm on a bus. Look right here. Gonna start right up. My first line of business will be hatching the egg that I traded over last night. So I'm just gonna run around for a long time. Yeah. $6,000 steps takes a really long time, by the way. Alright, so I'm at Wendy's right now, and as I'm eating on this break, I just made the realization that Generation 3 games have a physical special split, so all of Absol's dark type attacks will be special, so it's going to be really weird. Moment of truth. It's hatching. Oh yeah. We have my starter Absol.
Oh yeah.
Let's check out Aeneas' stats. Modest, which isn't going to be great except for dark type attacks because attack is lowered but special attack is increased. Oh, but it has Iron Tail and Double Team as egg moves from its parents on Emerald version, which is nice. So, yeah, I guess I'm going to continue on and the journey can really begin now. Okay, so I've been level grinding for the past few minutes on the bus. Still on the road, and going to be on the road for a long time. Oh, I just got the perfect bubble behind me. Okay. I just had a very unfortunate realization. Okay. Aeneas, a male name from the Aeneid, is female. So I'm going to have to rename her once I get to Sootopolis City, which will be probably in a few hours. But it's going pretty well. Like Iron Tail, whenever it hits, it's really hard. I can take out Pokemon in one turn if it hits. And right now it's obviously not hitting. Alright, so all bubble blowing aside, I just reached Roxanne, the first gym leader. So, let's go through our first battle. I apologize for the shakiness of the camera. So, let's do this. I'm going to try and take this one out with Iron Tail, because that's the only thing that will be effective against rock types. It's pretty much destroying. This Absol is awesome. The last up is Nose Pass, which is super defensive, but I don't think it'll be much of a problem. All in all, I missed. Oh, we took away the hardened bonus and it regained it back. This battle is pointless. Next turn she's probably going to use Potion. Yeah, so predictable. A sliver left. Another potion. This is just plain annoying. Alright, we took out Nose Pass. Speaking of Nose Pass, my first run through of Ruby, I honestly didn't know that it was a Pokemon outside of this gym until like maybe 2 weeks after I beat the game. Because it took me that long to find it, because you can only find it through Rock Smash and the cave near Dewford town. But all that aside, we now have the first gym badge. So moving on. With one long gym badge out of the way, things are looking pretty bright. I mean, Absol's level 17, and it's pretty much destroying pretty much everything in sight, like Zigzagoons. So we set sail with Mr. Briny and his Wingull named Pico, and no lie, I thought Wingull was called Pico for a little while until I encountered one. The boat sequence is nice. It's a nice little boat ride. We cover a lot of ground and a lot of sea routes that are completely optional later on, but chock full of secrets and cool places and a lot of trainers. And eventually, after some twists and turns of the boat, and it's already shaky because of the bus ride, of course, we reach Dewford. And here's the route that we take. A lot of sea route. In fact, Hoenn is a lot of sea route in general.
Bucket of balls. I was like, what did you get your drive working in? Nope, I started using my 9-iron. It was good. It was real good.
Alright, so I found Brawley, the fighting type gym leader. We're in like the middle of nowhere in the country. This is probably like Absol's #1 weakness other than bug types, which we won't encounter much of in the game. So this is going to be the hardest gym for sure. Alright, so my narration gets kind of flaky because of the bus ride and how loud everything is and kind of conversations around me. So I'm just going to do a quick post-narration. I'll do that a lot throughout this walkthrough. But anyway, I use Iron Tail a couple times on Machop, just as long as it hits twice and I don't get taken out too much by Karate Chops because of Makuhita coming up. Makuhita. This is going to be, I hope Iron Tail hits. That's the #1 thing that I need. Oh, 1 hit. Yeah. We win. 2 badges obtained.
Come sit right here and I'll tell you.
I'm in Mississippi in the middle of the country. Yeah. So I continue progressing in the game, and the bus ride continues on. and my next goal is Sootopolis City, so I can rename Absol and make our way to the third gym in Mauville. So we go on another long boat ride with Mr. Briny through more sea routes. This time, these are also optional sea routes later on, but I also love going here because of the abandoned ship that you saw briefly a second ago. And again, I just show the map just to show how much ground we've covered in such a short amount of time. Anyway, let's check out Sootopolis. We've left the country and now we're going through the country on the interstate. So it's still kind of country, but I have found the name rater, Sootopolis. So I'm going to promptly get the name changed. And I guess I will be using the counterpart of Aeneas, which is Dido, Aeneas' wife in Carthage, even though she's kind of psycho, not psychic. Dang it, I keep pressing B. Cool. 37 miles to New Orleans. An arrival battle. Probably like less than a mile from the next city, Mauville. This rival battle always gave me trouble because the Pokemon were so unexpectedly high level. But luckily Absol has been leveling up a pretty great deal. So we'll be able to get through this with relative ease. And also, first time I played this, I was really thrown off by all the typings of all the Pokemon here. Because almost all of them are unusual, or I can't initially tell. Like, I had no clue that that Numel was ground and fire. I expected it to be normal type. Then Marshtop, I didn't expect the starter Pokemon to also be ground type. Because I did choose Torchic on my first run, I believe. No, actually I chose Trico. And I didn't expect Combuskin to also be fighting type either. So, yeah, big element surprise there. As long as I can survive this mud shot. Focus camera, okay. Quick attack. Alright! Got it. Then we get the item finder, which I don't use much. Keep on going. Let's just see how far I can get on this bus ride. You want to see a strong woman? Check this out. Walking up a cliff. Incredible, right? Alright, so just as electrifying as Mountain Dew Live Wire is, and the static electricity on my hair, I'm about to fight the electric gym leader, Watson, who happens to have some steel types that cause quite a big problem. Time and time again, Watson's Pokemon were just too electrifying for me. Their steel type power, and Voltorb once with a Lucky Spark. I'm calling luck on that one, Hex. Yeah, just like overall, their steel types were huge problems for me. And usually this gym has been one of the easiest gyms for me, but I guess when you have an Absol, things are different. Lake Pontchartrain, and it's evening now. Check out all the water. It's pretty cool, right? This is a 24-mile bridge. This stretches on for quite a while.
The longest in the world?
It's probably, I think so. One of them.
It's like one of the longest in the world. Or like the longest like sequel span or something.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I stopped at the third badge against Watson because he kind of destroyed me with his Magneton many times, and my SP battery started to go low. So I'm gonna start charging my SP tonight, do some level grinding, and continue later on after dinner. It's evening. I'm in a hotel room, and my SP is charging. So tomorrow, at the competition, I can place off. Alright, so right now I'm at IHOP in the morning. Got a nice Mountain Dew and it's really electric green yellow. And I'm about to take on Watson for the 4th time. And maybe I can beat him this time because I've leveled up some.
Why?
I mean, because I'm not riding a bus anymore. Alright, so this battle is a huge pain, full of strategy. First off, it starts out with Magnemite, which tries to confuse and paralyze you. Luckily, it doesn't get into confusion, but it does get to heal up a couple of times, and it doesn't go down in as many hits as I wanted it to. And it's kind of annoying because he keeps healing, and Sonic Boom always does a set amount of damage no matter what. But eventually, after a little bit, Magnemite goes down. So I immediately switch into my Abra that I caught for the Flash HM, so I can use a Paralyze heal on Absol to take out Voltorb more easily. Because Voltorb can also be pretty deadly with its Spark attack and everything, if I let it attack first. But I can take it out in one hit with Bite, so that's why I had to do the Paralyze heal. And Voltorb does go down, because luckily it's not a freaking Steel type. Then Magneton comes out, and this was the biggest pain. And by the way, this is all post-narration because IHOP is a loud restaurant, of course. He keeps using Shockwave, which is a surefire attack, and he does try to paralyze me again. And I basically get free hits every time he tries to paralyze me, though, so I keep that in mind. I try to use Quick Attack to take it out, but then Watson uses Super Potion, so immediately the next turn, I keep trying to Bite to whittle it down, and it doesn't work well, so I use a Soda Pop from the Soda Pop house in Slateport City, and eventually I will whittle down Magneton to a good point for defeating it after some Soda Pops and the full restore from my pickup Zigzagoon. Well, anyway, I believe my actual narration is about to resume in a second, and I go for a Bite to keep it safe. Final turn in case he might heal again. So, yeah. Alright, finally. So much pain over one level 23 Magneton. I kept taking him out every time. But finally, we have defeated Watson, and we have our 3rd badge. And now that I've finally beat him, I'm going to celebrate with Mountain Dew and the food that is soon to come.
Just tell me if it sounds good.
It's like fizzy lava lamp. Ooh, okay. I celebrated the victory with chicken and waffles, but they were so good I forgot to film them. And they're all gone. So right now we're working on our robot, and it's really nice so far. It can climb, shoot frisbees. My main job is programming over there. We're going to do some practice rounds. It's going to throw some frisbees and whatnot. But I will soon have downtime because my programming job will soon be completely done. And then I will really get into the speedrunning. Alright, we're back on the road. Today was a really busy day of competition. But I didn't get much of a chance to play or anything today. But however, I did get Slash, which is a great move that I do need. And yeah, cool stuff. It's going to probably take over Razor Wind because Razor Wind is a 2-turn move, and I don't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Alright, although I didn't get much done at competition today, tonight I am right now playing a board game called Railways of the World that we bought at the mall. But I'm also playing through Ruby, and I'm going through my favorite route in the game, Route 113, full of soot. And we actually do happen to run into the rarest Pokemon there, Skarmory first. And I spent a while trying to catch it, but Skarmory has a really low catch rate, and it's very difficult to catch. But anyway, Route 113 was one of my favorite places because of how cool it just looked overall. And there was a soot collection. If you run around in the grass there for a while, you collect it, and it's something called the soot sack, and you can get some special glass flutes or glass furniture for your secret base. So I would always run around on this route. And another cool Pokemon you can find here is Spinda, which is a panda thing with little spots on it. and they're almost pretty much unique with over 6 billion different combinations. I actually did run into a shiny Spinda on my first run through here, but I didn't have any great balls on me. I only had like one Pokeball and it stopped working. Very similar to how I have 6 Pokeballs and 1 Premier Ball here right now, which is kind of scary. And that's why I think I eventually just give up on the Skarmory. But I did kind of want to make Skarmory my flyer. Well, anyhow, let's move on and I'll talk more about some other places. So, we're still playing the board game. And this was filmed about 2 hours later, and it was like 1 a.m. in the morning. But Solrock is another really cool Pokemon, and another one of my favorite spots is Meteor Falls. This whole part of the game is really cool. Meteor Falls is full of really interesting Pokemon like Solrock, which I really think should be a Fire and Rock type instead of a Psychic and Rock type. But this is one of the first places where you can see the conflict between Team Magma and Team Aqua. Both of them with very silly goals. Team Magma wants to fill the earth with land and take away the seas, and Team Aqua wants to take away the land and put more seas in, which I really thought was the sillier goal of the two. But it's kind of a pirates versus kind of really cool costumes. Personally, I like Team Magma's costumes more, and I think they're a little bit, very slightly less ridiculous than Aqua. Now here's one of the other great rides in this game, like the boat, the cable car. You kind of just sit there looking out the window and you look so eager, moving around and everything. You see the mountains and stuff and it's awesome. And then you see the soot, which I still like, it's awesome. Also, still playing this board game, I also wanted to demonstrate the Acro Bike, which I like a little bit more than the Mach Bike. And I wish it would return. Because you can do cool stuff like bunny hops, and the bunny hops actually help you encounter wild Pokemon. And the Jagged Pass, where I am right now, actually is built for the Acro Bike. So yeah. And to top off my adventures in post-narration while playing very fun games about being railroad tycoons in the same time, we top it off with our battle with the 4th gym leader, Flannery, who controls the fire type. She starts out with Slugma, which really is kind of slow Pokemon, but it can be strong if you let it move. And she has 2 of these things, so they fall really quickly. Last up is Torkoal, which I thought was rock type at first when I first saw it, and the steam is kind of silly. I thought the steam was a part of the Pokemon for a while, and I'm kind of glad it isn't because it kind of just looks ridiculous with that steam. But it falls pretty quickly because I'm like stupidly over-leveled right now. Yeah. This gym was always interesting to me because of the fog effect, which I'd never seen before, and all of the little mud traps, and I found it more confusing than Sabrina's gym the first time. But if you know where you're going, you can do anything, and then I end my night with a nice little sand bath because I'm tired. And thus, we begin the second day of competition, where I have a lot more downtime, including time for using this little robot toy. Well anyway, this is what the competition looks like. I'm sitting really high in the stands, and I start out by choosing fossils. The claw fossil makes Anorith, which is like a shrimp thing, and the root fossil makes Lilip, a plant thing. I've used Armaldo many times, the evolved form of Anorith, so I just choose Lilip because I feel like it needs some love, even though I'm not using it anyway. So then I just show you how much ground we've covered since last night and how weird the route is that we have to take in order to get to Flannery, which is right there. So now we can finally go around, and we have to go all the way over here for the next gym battle. Kinda cray-cray, you know? About to battle my dad. Watching this tournament. So let's battle. This battle is really annoying to me all the time because of slacking, however you pronounce it. It's a monster. However, it can move only one every other turn, so I always have a free turn against it. But Absol doesn't have the best defenses, so Facade will do a ton of damage every turn. that would have missed, I would have been dead in one turn. Luckily, Focus Punch makes this really easy. Easier than it should be. If you use Facade every turn. The last up is Vigor Off, which is like the others, but they can actually move every turn. But it's weak, and Slash gets a critical hit. So that's 5 badges. We're actually doing pretty well right now. I don't believe we're on the field yet right now. But we will be soon. And soon I'm going to go on lunch and go out to the levee, which is a really cool place. Outside, and there are wild Wingull everywhere. I was greatly considering one of these for my flying surf Pokemon, but there aren't too many accessible right now. So I'm going to actually look for a Meryl.
I'm in the middle of a field, outside, and I'm still the robotics competition thing, but the water, it impedes me. I cannot finish my journey until I acquire something that can surf. So therefore, I am going to hunt for a Meryl, and then I'm going to continue with my quest.
Here it is, Lake Pontchartrain, the hole in the boot of Louisiana if you ever look at a map. And I can finally surf these waters, because guess what? I encountered a Meryl. You can kind of see it. I'm gonna use great balls until I can catch it. The ocean is ours, even though this doesn't lead to an ocean. It's pretty cool though, look at all the rocks. Well, I guess I'm going to continue my trek and my journey and hop over these rocks and go across the water. So until then. Surf is probably one of the biggest HMs in the game in Ruby and Sapphire, because there are so many sea routes in Hoenn. In fact, a lot of people criticize the games because of all the sea routes, but I really don't mind because some added things like dive, waterfall, and all of the adventures that happen at sea are really fun to me, so I don't mind at all. So yeah, let's explore the sea. Alright, by crossing the sea, we can first access Route 119, which is one of the most interesting in the game, showcasing in-game weather most of the time, but unfortunately since the battery is dead, I believe that the rain never comes on this route. And I also showcase how you can use Cut to cut the grass, something that was taken out in the 4th and 5th gen games, unfortunately. But it's a really tedious process in the first place. You can't use your bike here, too, which is also interesting. Well, anyway, first right off the bat, again with some luck, we run into the rare flying type on this route, Tropius. Bananasaurus, one of my favorites in the Hoenn. And it was another Pokemon that took me a long time to figure out about, because I honestly didn't think it was here, because I had been through this route so many times and never found it. But I do try to catch it again, because I still need a Pokemon for Fly, for convenience, and I actually do end up catching it on my first Great Ball. So now we have a flying Pokemon, and I'm back inside from the levee, obviously, as you saw a second ago. So yeah, let's continue moving on to Winona, the 6th gym. It rages on. So, this gym is a doozy, because she has such a variety of Pokemon. She has 4, and all of them are very strong. First off is Swellow, which is the least strong out of all of them. The weakest. Not least strong, that's not a word. Then it's Pelipper, which uses Protect all the time. So, you can use Bite for giggles. Oh hey, didn't use Protect. Not getting confused is a good thing. I'm just gonna keep up Bite, because it's consistently going to hit very well. Next up is the toughest one, Skarmory. Mainly because it's steel type, but it doesn't have paralysis or anything like the other Skarmory we faced earlier. Alright, so overall this Skarmory is super annoying for taking out because it keeps like lowering accuracy in the first place. And we do get a couple critical hits, but eventually our bites go through and she's gonna heal and everything happens. So I just overall sped this out, and Future Sight fails there, and I always wondered why, and I did research, and whenever Future Sight misses it says it failed for some reason. So we eventually just keep trucking, using Bite. Eventually I decided to heal up because Ditto needed some health in order to survive all the Steel Wings. But then I realized that we still have all the accuracy lowers, drops, whatever. So I swap into Meryl to get rid of those boosts, or decreases rather. Meryl falls, and I send back in Ditto, and we can just bite it down. So let's return to regular narration. There we go. There goes the most annoying on the team. And last up is actually her strongest, Altaria. Which uses Dragon Dance to get even stronger. There we go. Good. 6 badges. And in a little while, we're probably going to leave this place as in the competition. I'm going to come back again here tomorrow. But, yeah, tomorrow's the last day. However, before the day ended, I did manage to get the Master Ball at competition, which is fantastic. What does this green light mean? I don't want to activate camera. Well, anyway, today at competition, I got some delicious street passes. Let's see how many people arrived. Just one. I got like 7 earlier today, though. Winston, this is the second time I've met this guy. Alright, we're in the hotel room, and we are watching footage from today's game and packing things up. And we're about to play more Railways of the World because it's an awesome game. Yeah, approved by George W. Bush.
That's the best game made.
And Professor Birch. Alright, so this is a double battle and it's required as a double battle. So I'm going to use Abra, which knows absolutely nothing that can help me. But this is going to be an easy battle anyway because they're psychic types, and Absol is dark. Alright, so this is a psychic type gym, so it's really easy. But it's a nice way to showcase double battles, which I really think there should have been more of in the game. But we got plenty of fill and double battles in Pokemon Coliseum, so I can't complain. Pretty much my strategy was to use Bite and watch everything else faint. And just use unique placeholder moves that wouldn't really contribute to the battle on the other Pokemon. And really, honestly, I was just chatting with the other people in the room the whole time I did this battle, and I barely looked down at the screen at all. So, it went pretty easily. Yeah. Alright, so I just beat the leaders without really even paying much attention at all to the game. So that's nice. I just got a new SD card, so I'm not as worried about having to film things anymore, because this SD card is 16 gigs. So I can have plenty of time for footage from the rest of the game. Having defeated the 7th gym leaders, I finally have the privilege to use Dive, probably my favorite HM ever because the environment underwater is so cool. I really wish there could have been more underwater stuff though. I really hope to see more underwater puzzles someday. So yeah, really cool stuff. Alright, so I'm in this underwater cavern, and there's some lava and a big sleeping monster. But Maxie, the leader of Team Magma, stops me. And instead of carrying out his plan, he decides that first he has to take me out in a Pokemon battle. I don't know why it's necessary, but whatever. It's an interesting battle because the Pokemon are a lot higher level than they have been. But, Mighty Anna's main thing is Intimidate, lowering my attack. My voice sounds crazy, so I need to use the camera. But he keeps healing up. And eventually we ought to be able to take it out. Mighty Anna's really not that strong. It just has Intimidate and stuff. So anyway, we get a nice hefty level up. And I'm obviously playing the board game at the time because I obviously, have a bunch of random hesitations that shouldn't be there. Next up is Crobat, which uses Confuse Ray, which is really annoying. Yeah, I hate Confuse Ray and Confusion in general, because more times than not, I hurt myself with my Confusion. But Iron Tail does really decent damage against Crobat, so 2 hits from that and it ought to go down. Eventually, Bite gets a nice critical hit, takes out Crobat very handily. Before he sends out Camerupt, I send out Abra to heal Absol. And it also helps regain that attack loss that I had from Mighty Anna earlier. And Abra falls to take down really easily. And we're able to take out Camerupt with Slash and Bite. Huzzah! We have beaten the boss of Team Magma. Unfortunately, this will not stop him from using his blue orb, which is the wrong orb. He must be colorblind because Groudon is red and blue doesn't control it. We have the red orb, which obviously would control it. So, big mistake on Maxie's part. And Groudon escapes. It really confused me at first whenever he got the blue orb. I thought I had somehow had the wrong version, like Sapphire. But, anyhow, the consequences of this event are really interesting. Because until you capture Groudon, or defeat it, there will be permanent sunlight in the Hoenn region. So, if you have fire types, you could have a lot of fun just taking out almost everything. Because water-type moves are weakened, and you can just go to the sea routes and just, sweep the floor with all of them for some good training. But that's just kind of mean, because the world is dying and stuff, but honestly, you can just sit around in the drought as long as you want. I'm not going to do that, though. I am going to find Groudon and try and capture it, even before the end of this board game. But I really did spend a long time in this drought first time I played the game. 3, 4 points. Still playing Trains in the World. It's so much fun. And I'm about to face Groudon, the legendary beast.
You should have gone in the game.
I'm not gonna lie, Groudon is a super cool Pokemon. It's always been one of my favorites. It has cool designs all over it. And if you look at the Pokédex size comparison, it's huge, gigantic. And it has Drought. It's truly a mythical, legendary Pokemon. I mean, it's just gigantic. I use Master Ball on it, though. So I don't have to put up much of a fight, and I can just get it over with and have a Groudon for sure. We caught it. Alright, and I believe this is the last bit of footage I got this night. So, I will see you tomorrow morning. Well, it's the next morning. I'm at competition again. And I'm in Pacific Log Town, which is a nice side quest town that looks really cool because everything's floating on little logs. And it's also the place where you can see if Mirage Island is visible, which is a place full of the wild Pokemon Lynot with the rare Lychee Berry. And I just always loved this place. I'm level grinding now for the 8th gym. So, Wallace's gym confuses me, because once you fall through the ice, it's just like a room full of women, and there's like no explanation whatsoever. And there are like tons of them. It's just a really strange situation. Continuing. Final badge, let's do this. He starts out with Love Disc. I mean, it's Love Disc. Battle with Wallace rages on, and the crowd was so loud you can't hear anything that I really say for the rest of the battle. But this guy has a ton of Pokemon. I started out with just like another healing because I just kind of needed that in order to continue on and do well. His main strategy here is Water Pulse, which has the ability to confuse Pokemon as well, which I recall being a huge pain even with Sceptile, the grass type, my first run through. However, his Pokemon, I don't have really anything that's not very effective against them, so it doesn't take long to take them out. Just sometimes they're somewhat strong. I do get a lucky flinch on Celio, which is good. Then there's Seaking, which is level 42. And I get another lucky flinch on that. Just have some really good luck with this battle. Last up is Milotic, which is really strong defensively. Evolved form of Feebas. I had no clue how to get this Pokemon for like, I don't even know how long. Because Feebas, I didn't even know it existed either for a really long time. It's just one of those Pokemon that remained a mystery to me, just like Nosepass. And the evolved form of Wailmer, Wailord. Alright. Now we have 8 badges. Last up we have the Elite Four. Now with the 8th badge, we can cross into Evergrande, or Evergrande, or Evergrande City. I still don't know how to pronounce it, and it's been 10 years. And we have the ability to scale waterfalls, which has always been really cool, even though it's really slow in this game. Yeah. So let's go through Victory Road and stuff. Adventure! Alright, so I'm outside in the land of Winkles and Pelicans. And I'm about to fight who I believe is really the true rival of Ruby and Sapphire. I've always seen Wally as the true rival in this game. You start out beating him pretty badly at the Mauville Gym right before you enter, and I believe I didn't get that on camera. But he really comes back Victory Road with some really strong Pokemon. In fact, I almost faint multiple times here with some of his Pokemon. And in addition to that, he's infinitely rebattleable after you beat the Elite Four, which makes him like a real trainer that you have to come back and battle many times. And he's really good. And he has a Magneton just like Watson, so he's very difficult to defeat with just Absol alone. But Future Sight actually works for once. I had to heal a few times. For some reason I showed like a split-second thing outside, and I don't know why. But Wally's also a real good character because, like, he's always sick all the time, but he's able to overcome that sickness and all of his ailments to become a real Pokemon master, so it's just words of encouragement. Last up is Gardevoir, and I really honestly thought I was about to faint and lose here, but I do eventually pull through with a bite that does well. So let's go back to my regular narration. Alright, so that was a pretty close match. Kind of crazy. Took a while. Barely survived. But I'm glad I won. And now, the real challenge can begin with preparing for the Elite Four. So, let's do this. Look at all the Wingo. It's crazy. What if there are any Pelipper anywhere? I know I saw one yesterday, actually. A really big one. Looks like someone's feeding them over there. Pretty cool. They're everywhere in Hoenn region, though. Immediately I realized that the champion in Ruby and Sapphire is a Steel-type user, which is really bad. So I went to the Mauville game corner and reminisced about the game corner by playing some slots and eventually buying coins so I could get Absol, the flamethrower TM, in order to stand a chance. I really missed the game corner, though. It really wasn't that bad, and it didn't promote gambling that much, but apparently people found issue with it, and it had to be removed from Black and White. And in fact, there was a regular game corner in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but we instead got Voltorb flipped, because they didn't want slot machines. But eventually I do buy the coins, and I get the nice TM for Flamethrower, and I teach it over Future Sight because it hasn't really come in handy except for like once. So now after that, I'm going to just do some training now, and I'm going to take on the Elite Four. Let's do this. Alright, so I'm sitting here watching the final rounds of competition, training for Elite Four, and look at this. A shiny Whisper with green ears. Ain't that just cray? I'm gonna try and capture this thing. In the moment of sadness for the Whisper, I just continued training in Victory Road, which I kind of have down to a science in Ruby and Sapphire because it was my main place for training Pokemon to level 100. It's how I got my first Jirachi from 5 to 100, actually. The Victory Road here is just full of a good variety of Pokemon that give out good experience points, except for Zubats and Whispers. And I get really mad at Whispers now because they're not shiny. But, what the hey. A shiny's a shiny. I can get another one someday, maybe. 1 in 8,000 chance, whatever. I continue training here, just like I used to always do. And very soon, I'm going to take on the Elite Four, and this run may soon come to an end. Well, I'm here now. Might as well start the Elite Four at the competition. Well, we start out at the badge check, which is really kind of lame in this game. Just kind of two dudes that step aside instead of like some elaborate gate system like in the first game and in Black and White. But whatever, they tell us to believe in ourselves, and gosh darn it, we're gonna believe in ourselves. I'm gonna believe in myself at least. And first up is Elite Four Sydney, the dude with the cool mohawk. And he trains Pokemon of the Dark type. Actually, Absol's brethren. So that's kind of cool, I guess. He leads with Mightyena, which is the Intimidator. So I just try and take that one out first. But I'm pretty much planning on switching out after this one, I believe. But I forget to switch out, and I just kind of use Flamethrower. Anyway, misclicks, whatever. I switch out after Shift Tree because that went surprisingly nicely, but I didn't think it would afterwards, so I switch back out. And I take out Cacturn, a couple of turns. For some reason I don't use Flamethrower the first turn, I don't know why. Then out comes Sharpedo, the glass cannon that can do a lot of damage, but it falls really quickly to regular moves. I should know because of the Carvana and my White 2 run. But Swagger actually takes it out, which is surprising. So I actually have to end up using a Revive in order to revive the Absol. Sharpedo can be a real pain sometimes. But eventually he sends out Absol of his own, and I take it out in a couple turns because Absol has low defenses. Alright. Sydney overall was pretty easy. Now time to move on to Phoebe.
Hey, you, what you gonna do? Hey, you, what you gonna do? Hey, you, what you gonna do? Hey.
Sorry, I'm not speeding up this battle. Space Jam is just too good for that. Anyhow, it's overall a very simple battle because they're ghost types and Absol's a dark type, so Bite will just gnaw through most of these. The thing is, though, that some of her Dusclopses have Protect, which is really annoying because it adds extra stall turns, and Bite doesn't quite finish off some of the Pokemon, so I have to exhaust her full restores. And it also really lowers Bite's power points, meaning I won't be able to use it as much in future battles. I only have one max elixir. But anyhow, Bayonet luckily falls really quickly, because Bayonet's really weaker. I have a shiny one, though. Next up is Sableye, which has no weaknesses, much like Spiritomb. And if someone did add Wonder Guard to it in a future generation, it would be weak against Fire Fang for some reason, and no one knows why. It's just how Fire Fang is programmed. Just a little fun fact to add in there while you listen to Space Jam. Well, anyway, it goes down in 2 hits, because Sableye doesn't have the best stats, honestly. And then next up is Bayonet, another Bayonet. Phoebe really has a bunch of repeat Pokemon, and so does the next Elite Four member, because I guess there weren't too many Pokemon of that type available in the Hoenn Pokedex. And last up is Dusclops again, which falls eventually. Yeah, overall, Phoebe's battle wasn't bad at all. So, as I finish off Phoebe, we can eventually move on in the Elite Four. I guess if you're not prepared for ghost types, it can be a difficult battle. But I was well prepared.
Just fell super quickly. Nah, I'm number 3. Oh.
Alright, Glacia is up third, and she just happens to share the same name with Glaceon's Japanese name, which is kind of amusing. I don't think her Japanese name is Glacia, but hey, I don't know. Anyway, Flamethrower works wonders here, and so does Iron Tail, because Ice types are both weak to those. Unfortunately, Glalie is the only one that will fully experience that super effective thing, though, because Celio and Walrein both are part water and both have part resistance to those moves. So I guess if I had fighting type moves, I'd be able to do this a lot more easily. But I have to constantly face the threat of hail, which means that Blizzard will hit every time, and Blizzard does a hefty amount of damage to Absol. But without hail, Blizzard has a high chance of missing, but unfortunately I don't really ever see that during this battle. And I can't ever really burn Celio because of its ability Thick Fat, which is kind of disappointing. because burn status effect really works really well. But luckily Iron Tail does a decent amount of damage. I have to wait for the dive. He gets a free turn basically to strike me and stuff. But eventually Celio falls. And then there's another Glalie, which is like a little breath of fresh air compared to those stupid seals. Even though it ice beams me to death. I luckily have more revives though. So it's really not as bad as it seems. Aber keeps getting destroyed though. Anyhow, Iron Tail eventually nails Glalie. Last up is Walrein, the Walrus, Cuckoo. And luckily we get some pretty decent luck on the thing. I do say so, yeah. And there goes Glacia.
Oh man. Alright, so continuing on and continuing on. Robots and dragons. This is gonna be the toughest fight probably.
Alright, let me start off this battle by saying that I always thought Drake was a really weird fellow, because he's a shirtless old man wearing a cape. That does make him kind of cool though, like just super ship captain full of dragons. Altaria is also weird as a dragon type, but I guess it's based off some sort of mythology. I presume Japanese or Chinese or something. I actually remember reading about it being Chinese mythology. Anyhow, he has Flygons, Altarias, Shelgon, Salamence, just all those dragon types. It's mainly brute force to be used here, because his Pokemon are very strong, and they're not afraid to use Hyper Beam if I stay in long enough. I do a surprisingly decent amount of damage to Flygon, and all that's left is eventually Salamence, which has Intimidate, so I switch out to get rid of the annoying effects of Intimidate, so I can take it on full force with Iron Tail, and it looks like it's going to be a 1-hit, 2-hit, maybe 3 because of the Citrus Berry. Keeps using full restore, but eventually we pull through. And that's the battle with Drake.
So, we've taken on the entire Elite Four and won. So now, I'm going to take on the champion. Probably not here.
So we eventually leave the competition. We didn't win anything, but it was really fun. We eventually ranked really high after we figured out some problems and fixed them. My coding went pretty well. And I had a lot of fun playing Pokemon. So we leave for dinner, and I'm just trying to find the best spot to battle. We cross over blank white lakes and everything. I just have no clue where I can battle the champion.
Here we are. The fog is vanishing, and I'm at Middendorf's. I wonder if it has any relationship to Ganondorf.
What is this, 1950s? People don't drink at the last bottles.
About to eat a fancy dinner. It's a seafood restaurant, but I'm allergic to seafood. But whatever. Let's fight the final trainer. We're gonna use a max elixir first. Thank you.
You better put that on the end.
Yeah, I will. There it goes. We're about to fight the final battle in the game. In the middle of a seafood restaurant. It's kind of random, but whatever.
Bread.
You just had a random bread moment in the middle of your Pokemon.
I did have a random bread moment.
In the middle of your Pokemon. Oh my god.
Try the bread. You see if it's good bread.
When his sweet tea's gonna get here, you're gonna have a random sweet tea moment.
Yes, I am. Alright, so I'm going to try and use Flamethrower for most of the battle.
Do that.
Because Flamethrower is going to be the most beneficial move.
Oh, don't touch everybody's bread. I don't want to be
Alright, so we eventually have to take out Skarmory after it does the full restore. It's really annoying that Flamethrower didn't take it out first try, but second time's a charm. And next up is Armaldo, which is actually not Steel at all, it's just Rock and Bug, I believe. So it falls to Iron Tail, which is nice. Then is Claydol, which is also not Steel. But first, I have a moment.
Alright. This champion battle is going super smoothly right now. Oh, but Aggron is tough. Let's Iron Tail it. I probably should use Flamethrower because Aggron's special defense is nothing compared to its physical defense. We got a critical hit anyway.
Anyhow, we continue on the battle with Aggron and everything. The most confusing thing about this battle is just typing, because half the Pokemon aren't even Steel type. Like Cradily is Grass and Rock, and Claydol earlier was Ground and Psychic. So it's just overall a variety champion, a lot like Cynthia, but he kind of specializes in Steel types, I guess. Absol actually falls to Cradily's Ancient Power, and almost all the rest of my Pokemon are fainted. So luckily I still have a revive. I send out Absol once more. And just for safe measure, I revive Zigzagoon again, and I full restore Absol, just to get a good head start. Unfortunately, Cradily gets the boost from Ancient Power, so it's going to be harder to take out, but a couple of Iron Tails and an Autofall. And there it goes. Oh, another moment coming up.
Sweet tea moment.
$100 sweet tea.
Anyhow, continuing on with Metagross, I just used Flamethrower. It's definitely his strongest Pokemon. Meteor Mash takes me out in one hit, even though I only had 45 HP left. I just need to revive Absol now, so I can finish off the job. And then things ought to go great. So, let's finish off this battle.
We just beat the champion in the middle of a seafood restaurant. Thumbs up moment. Alright, wait, thumbs up. Just thumbs up. Thumbs up. Yeah, it's like good.
And now we get to experience the satisfying moment of the Hall of Fame, looking at an Absol and 5 extremely lesser Pokemon. And I believe one of them is a cast form that I also got off camera, by the way, at the Weather Institute. That's just a free giveaway. Anyway, we have level 70 Absol, level 8 Abra, level 3 Zigzagoon, level 15 Meryl, level 26 Tropius, the level 25 cast form. The Dream Team right there. And there's my fork. I don't remember why I filmed my fork. Anyhow, we're going to keep going on. I'm going to talk about the ending of the game. It took me a while to reach the end of the Elite Four, but the champion I actually took out first try. I've always loved Pokemon Ruby's credits, though, because it's just like the opening of the game. You riding your bike into the horizon. But we still haven't figured out the mystery of the blue Pokemon, which is another interesting thing, because that's all post-game. And you see it at the very beginning of the game, so it gives you encouragement to keep playing after you beat it. And then it shows you all the Pokemon that you met along the way and captured. It's supposed to be super sentimental, and it was. Like, I almost welled up the first time I played it, because I was, like, super sentimental about finally finishing the game. But it's just showing the same 7 Pokemon for me. But it's been fun overall. And I hope you've enjoyed it too. So until next time, this has been Absol with a random documentary. If you have any moments from Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire that you'd like to share, just let me know. And I will see you next time on another adventure. As always, my adventure's never over. To be continued.